Here's a question I get more than almost any other. Taralee, what do I do now? Do I give them space? Do I send the text? Do I apologize again? Do I ask them to talk one more time? Do I back off? Do I fight for this? Do I stop bringing it up? Do I tell them how much pain I'm in? Do I ask them if they still love me? I understand why you want that answer fast. When your marriage feels unstable, your nervous system doesn't want nuance, it wants relief. It wants a plan, and it wants to know which single move is going to fix everything. So here's what I want to give you instead today, because I think it will actually serve you better. The next right move depends entirely on what stage your marriage crisis is actually in. So stick with me, because by the end of this episode, you're going to know exactly where to look. Hey there, welcome to the Focus Podcast with Taralee. This is the place where we talk about real life, real relationships, and how to grow through it all. If you're looking for simple mindset shifts, better communication, and deeper connections, you're in the right spot. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Focus Podcast. I'm Taralee Eddington, and today's episode might be one of the most useful ones I've ever recorded if your marriage is in crisis right now, because I'm going to walk you through the 8 stages that I see over and over in my coaching work, and more importantly, what not to do in each one. Here's the thing nobody tells you when your marriage starts to fall apart. Not every crisis is the same crisis. Some couples are quietly disconnected but still functioning fine on the surface. Some know something's wrong but are just avoiding it. Some are stuck blaming each other, and some are in full panic mode. Some are separated, some are using the word divorce, some are trying to reconcile but don't know how to rebuild trust. And if you use the wrong approach for the stage you're actually in, you can make things worse, even when your heart is completely in the right place. I see this constantly. Someone is terrified. Their spouse is pulling away, so they start doing everything they can think of. Long texts, repeated apologies, suggesting books and podcasts and date nights and retreats, trying to prove they've changed, trying to convince their spouse to see the marriage differently. And none of that is wrong because it comes from caring. It makes sense that you're trying. But when your spouse is overwhelmed, shut down, resentful, or doesn't feel safe in the relationship anymore, more effort usually doesn't land as love. It lands as more pressure. That's why awareness has to come first. Not awareness of where you wish you were, not where you were 5 years ago, not where you think your spouse should be. Awareness of where you actually are right now. So let's walk through it. 8 stages and what to do differently in each one. The first stage is what I call the quiet drift. This is when the marriage is slowly moving away from connection, but nobody's treating it like a crisis yet. You're still functioning, raising kids, managing the calendar, going to work, paying the bills, showing up at family things. There might even be moments where everything looks fine from the outside. But underneath, something's shifting. Conversations get more logistical than emotional. Affection thins out. One or both of you feel a little unseen. And resentment starts quietly stacking up. You stop repairing well after conflict. You avoid certain topics because you already know exactly where they'll go. This stage is really sneaky because it rarely feels urgent. And you tell yourself, we're just busy. We're in a hard season. Once work calms down, we'll reconnect. Once the kids are older, it'll get better. We're not as bad as other couples. And maybe some of that's even true. But the real danger of the quiet drift is the distance starts to feel normal. You stop expecting closeness. You stop reaching for each other. You stop believing it can be different. And one day, one of you wakes up and says, I don't know if I want this anymore. The work here is not to panic, it's noticing. Ask yourself, where have we stopped turning toward each other? Where have I normalized the distance? Where have I been avoiding honest conversations because I don't want conflict? Where am I waiting for my spouse to change before I show up differently? This is where small, consistent repair matters far more than a grand gesture. Not, we need to fix everything tonight, just consistent, emotionally safe connection. A softer tone, a genuine check-in, a repair after irritation instead of letting it sit, a moment of appreciation. The goal in the quiet drift is simple. Wake up before the crisis gets louder. The second stage is uneasy awareness. You know something's wrong now, you can feel the distance, but you may not know what to do with it yet. Maybe your spouse is more irritated, less affectionate, less interested, or more withdrawn. Maybe you've started thinking, okay, we're not okay. People in this stage often minimize. They hope it'll pass. They try to be nicer for a few days. They plan a date night instead of having a real conversation, or they bring it up, but only out of frustration. This is the stage where I hear people say, I knew things weren't great, but I didn't realize they were this bad. That sentence matters because one spouse is often more aware of the problem earlier than the other. One spouse may have been hurting for years, the other may have thought, we have issues, but everyone does. So by the time the less aware spouse wakes up, the more hurt spouse already may be exhausted. Your job here is not to argue about whether it's really that bad. Your job is to get curious. This is where emotional safety becomes the foundation. Try something like, I'm realizing I may not have understood how disconnected you felt. I don't want to argue with your experience. I want to understand it better. That's a completely different energy than, but I've been trying, or, but you never told me, or, but you're acting like I'm the only problem, or, but I'm not the same person I was. Those responses are understandable, but they almost always trigger defensiveness. In uneasy awareness, the work is humility, not self-abandonment, not taking all the blame and not begging. Just the willingness to say, there's something here I haven't fully understood, and I'm willing to look at it. That's where rebuilding actually starts. Stage 3 is the blame cycle. Both of you know there's a problem now, but each believes the other person is the main reason for it. I can't trust you. You won't let me change. You're always angry. I'm angry because you won't listen. You never want to talk because every conversation turns into interrogation. Both people feel hurt. Both feel misunderstood. Both are quietly collecting evidence, and the marriage starts to feel like a courtroom instead of a safe place. This is exactly where my focus framework earns its name because we have to slow everything down. F is for facts first. What actually happened? O is to own your thoughts. What story am I telling about it? C is to choose your feelings. What emotion is really driving me? U is to understand your actions. What do I do from that emotion? S is to shape your results. Is that action building the marriage I say that I want? Most people in the blame cycle think the goal is to prove their side, but proving your side rarely creates safety. It might create a flash of righteousness, but it doesn't create repair. So the shift is from winning the argument to understanding the pattern. Instead of, how do I get my spouse to see what they're doing wrong? Ask, what happens between us when we get scared, hurt, or defensive? Because the pattern is usually the real enemy. The pursue, withdraw, the criticize and defend, pressure and shut down, explain and invalidate, apologize and repeat, avoid and resent. Once you can see the pattern, you can start to interrupt it. And I want to be really clear about something. Interrupting the pattern does not mean you ignore your spouse's behavior. It means you stop adding fuel to the same cycle. You still have boundaries. You still tell the truth. You still ask for accountability. You still name what's not okay. You just do it from steadiness instead of panic. That's a very different energy, and your spouse can feel the difference. Stage 4 is the alarm stage, when the crisis becomes undeniable. Someone finally says it out loud. I'm not happy. I don't know if I love you anymore. I need space. I can't keep doing this. I think we should separate. I want a divorce. And suddenly the spouse who is unaware, avoidant, or defensive wakes up, scared. This is the stage where people start doing too much too fast. They want to fix years of pain in one conversation. They want their spouse to feel safe now. They want trust back right now. They want reassurance right now. They want a plan right now. But your spouse may not be able to give you that. And here's one of the hardest truths in marriage crisis. Your urgency does not automatically create your spouse's capacity. Just because you're finally ready to work on it doesn't mean they're ready to trust it. Just because you see it now doesn't mean they feel safe now. Just because you're willing to change doesn't mean their nervous system believes it yet. So in the alarm stage, you slow down. Not give up, slow down. The goal stops being forced connection and becomes safer to connect with. That means fewer marathon emotional conversations if they overwhelm your spouse, fewer apologies that are secretly requests for reassurance, fewer attempts to convince them to feel hopeful, more consistency, more listening, more regulation, more ownership, more follow-through, and more patience. Your spouse doesn't need one intense moment of change. They need more data over time. They need to experience you differently, not just hear you describe how different you are. And I know that's hard because you want relief, but chasing relief can make you less safe. So the question shifts from how do I get them back today to what would safety look like today? Safety first. Stage 5 is separation or emotional shutdown. Sometimes this is physical. Someone moves out or starts sleeping in another room or says they need space. But sometimes it's emotional, still in the house but gone. No deep conversations, no initiated affection, conflict avoided entirely. They're cordial but distant. This stage is painful because it feels like you're losing access in real time. And that fear whispers, if I don't say something now, I'm going to lose them. But this is exactly the stage where pressure does the most damage, because a shutdown spouse is usually trying to protect themselves. That doesn't mean every conclusion they've reached is right. It doesn't mean the marriage is over. It doesn't mean you have no influence. It means your influence now has to come through safety, not force. This is where grounded respect matters, not coldness, not punishment, not pretending you don't care, but something like, I don't want this separation and I'm not going to pretend it doesn't hurt, but I'm also not going to keep pressuring you. I'm going to use this time to work on myself, understand my part more clearly, and become healthier in how I show up. And then you actually do that, not as a strategy to get them to notice, as the real work. You learn to regulate your own emotions. You stop making your spouse responsible for your stability. You own the ways you contributed to the disconnection. You get support. You build emotional strength. You become someone who can handle hard conversations without collapsing, attacking, or chasing. That is powerful because even if your spouse is still unsure, your steadiness changes the entire dynamic between you. Stage 6 is the decision point. When one or both of you are weighing, do we keep trying, separate, reconcile, divorce? Is there enough safety here to actually rebuild? This stage can feel excruciating because you want certainty and you usually don't have it. Your spouse may be ambivalent, open one day, distant the next, hopeful in one conversation, hopeless in the next. And if you're the one wanting to save the marriage, you can slide into analyzing every word, every text, every tone, every facial expression. But overanalyzing your spouse will drain you dry. At this stage, you come back to your own lane. Who am I becoming? What am I consistently practicing? What emotional safety am I creating? What boundaries do I need? What truth do I need to tell? And what support do I need so I don't spiral? This isn't passive, it's deeply active, but it's not controlling, and that distinction matters. You're not trying to control their decision. You're trying to become clear, grounded, honest, and emotionally safe enough to participate in whatever comes next. And if your spouse is willing to work on it with you, this is exactly where structure matters, because hope alone isn't enough. You need a process to rebuild emotional safety, communicate without escalating, repair that actually repairs, build trust through real experience. This is why I always teach it in this order: safety, then connection, then vulnerability. Vulnerability without safety feels threatening, and connection without safety feels like pressure. A vision for the future without safety just feels fake. Safety always comes first. Stage 7 is rebuilding. Both of you willing to engage, but everything still tender. This isn't the stage where things are fixed. It's the stage where trust is fragile, and one of the biggest mistakes couples make here is thinking, we're talking again, so we're okay. Talking is not the same as rebuilding. Rebuilding requires consistency. It requires repair. It requires change patterns. It requires both people learning how to bring up pain without attacking and how to hear pain without collapsing into shame or defensiveness. If there's been betrayal, emotional neglect, years of conflict, avoidance, criticism, resentment, or shutdown behind you, the relationship can absorb too much too fast. Closeness has to be rebuilt at the pace of safety, not at the pace of longing. So you ask each other, can we repair conflict sooner? Can we tell the truth more gently? Can we listen without defending? Can we follow through on what we say? Can we build small moments of connection without demanding a big emotional payoff? Can we build trust with consistent data over time? This stage is beautiful, but isn't always easy, because rebuilding will bring up old fear. The spouse may wonder, is this real or is this temporary? The spouse who is trying may wonder, how long do I have to keep proving myself? And this is where maturity is required, because the answer isn't just get over it. The answer also isn't you can never be trusted again. The answer is we are going to build something new. We're going to build something slowly and honestly. That's the actual work of rebuilding. The final stage is a new marriage pattern. When the couple isn't just surviving the crisis anymore, they're learning how to live differently. They know their old cycle, they know their triggers, they know what disconnection looks like early and how to repair faster. They know how to ask for what they need without accusation and how to create emotional safety on purpose. That doesn't mean they never struggle. Healthy couples still have conflict. They still misunderstand each other. They still get tired, stressed, defensive, and hurt sometimes, but they have a different way back to each other. That's the actual goal. Not a perfect marriage, a safer marriage, a more honest marriage, a more connected marriage, one where both people know how to come back to each other. This is the stage where a couple finally says, we don't want to go back to how it was before, because before may be exactly what created this crisis. They want something better, and that's possible, but it requires a new foundation, not just a patched up old one. Now, as you've been listening, I want you to actually ask yourself, where are we? Are we in the quiet drift, uneasy awareness, stuck in the blame cycle, in full alarm, separated or emotionally shut down? At the decision point, rebuilding or building a genuinely new pattern. Be honest. You can't coach yourself from where you wish you were. You have to start from where you actually are. And here's the encouragement I want to give you. No matter what stage you're in, there is a next right step. It may not be the step you wanted. It may not be the step that gives you immediate relief, but there's a step that helps you become more grounded, more emotionally safe, more honest, and more capable of rebuilding. For some of you, the next step is to stop avoiding and start noticing. For some, it's to stop blaming and start understanding the pattern. For some, it's to stop pressuring and start creating safety. For some, it's to stop spiraling and get support so you can show up with steadiness. For some, it's to stop trying to rebuild without a real process. And for some of you, it's simply to believe that this crisis doesn't have to be the end of your story, but you do need to respond differently. Not perfectly, differently. Because panic will tell you to do everything right now. But wisdom says, slow down, get clear, create safety, own your part, stop feeding the old cycle, and take the next right step. That's how you begin to move forward. If you're listening to this and realizing, I genuinely don't know what stage we're in, and I don't know what to do next, you don't have to figure that out alone. This is exactly the kind of work I help clients with inside my Marriage Breakthrough program. We look at where your marriage actually is and what's keeping the disconnection going, and what your specific next right steps needs to be, so you can stop reacting from panic and start rebuilding from safety. You can head to my website and book a consultation call. And if you're not ready for that yet, grab my free Marriage Crisis Stage Finder. It'll help you pinpoint exactly where you are and what not to do from here. The link is in the show notes. But please don't keep throwing random solutions at a marriage crisis without first understanding what stage you're actually in. There is a better way forward, and I will help walk you through it. So remember, what you focus on expands, and I will see you next time on the Focus Podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me today on the Focus Podcast. If something stood out or helped you in some way, Feel free to share it or leave a quick review. It means a lot. Keep showing up, keep growing, and I'll catch you in the next episode.